All right, let's dive right into the power of your subconscious mind. We're going to explore huh, how the subconscious shapes so much of our lives, from our health to wealth to even uh, happiness.
This book, even after all these years since it was published, it still has so much to teach us about the power of our own minds.
Yeah, it's this owner's manual, right, for our minds. It reveals the incredible potential that we all have inside. One thing that stuck with me was how it kept saying that the subconscious mind is like this miracle working power. It's not just
Mm.
some passive part of us, it's an active force constantly shaping our reality.
Absolutely, yeah. It really gets you thinking about how the inner world and the outer world, how they're connected.
It's not just about wishful thinking, there's a real system at play. The book actually shares some amazing stories that show this in action. Like the surgeon, Dr. James Esdale. He performed major surgeries,
Back in the 1840s.
right, way back in the 1840s.
Yeah.
And he only used mental anesthesia.
What's fascinating about that story is it wasn't just the lack of regular anesthesia, but his mortality rate, it was incredibly low. And he really believed it was because of the power of suggestion. He talked directly to the patient's subconscious minds and instilled these positive expectations in them.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about it. Even though it was centuries ago, his work shows us something so important. The subconscious mind, it's highly receptive to influence from the outside world, especially when a person is in a relaxed state.
And that's still relevant today. Think about the placebo effect. People experience real changes physically based only on what they believe about a treatment.
It's like, wow, the subconscious is so powerful. But how do we tap into it? The book uses this analogy of the subconscious being like a book of life. Our thoughts, beliefs, expectations, they're all written in it.
It is a great analogy, yeah. If we want to change our experiences, we have to change what's written in this book.
Yeah.
And that's where the conscious mind comes in. It's like this watchman. It filters information and sends it down to the subconscious.
So like a gatekeeper, deciding what gets in, right? But the subconscious, it doesn't reason, it doesn't argue.
It just accepts those impressions and acts on them.
So we need to be really careful about the thoughts we choose. We have to focus on the positive and constructive ones.
We're basically programming our subconscious with every single thought.
That's a lot of responsibility.
But it is also empowering, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's like we have these two levels working together, but with different roles.
Right, think of it like a gardener planting seeds. The conscious mind, that's the gardener. Choosing the seeds, those are the thoughts. And the subconscious mind, that's the soil. That's where the thoughts grow.
So if you want to grow a garden full of joy, abundance, you have to be mindful of what seeds you are planting.
And the thoughts that we choose.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a gardener who cares for their garden, we have to care for our minds. Cultivating the positive and weeding out the negative. The book tells this great story about Caruso, the opera singer.
Oh, I think I've heard of this.
He was dealing with terrible stage fright. He actually overcame it by commanding his big me to take over. That's his term for the subconscious mind.
So he understood the power of the
The
subconscious.
peak performance.
It's not like we are just controlled by our anxieties. We can direct them.
We can consciously choose how we respond.
So like we all have this inner Caruso waiting to be unleashed, this big me that helps us do incredible things. How do we access that power regularly?
There are specific techniques. The book doesn't just say think positive, it gives you tools to work with your subconscious.
So this is where it gets really interesting. We're not just talking about ideas, but how to use them. So what are some of these techniques? What tools can we use?
Well, one of the techniques is called the passing over technique. It's where you induce a relaxed state, almost like dreaming. And in this state, the subconscious is more open to suggestions.
Oh, so like creating the perfect conditions for thoughts to take root. And there are more than just this one technique, right?
Absolutely. Another one is the sleeping technique. It uses the fact that the subconscious is highly receptive before and after sleep.
So those bedtime affirmations, they're not just a nice thing to do. They're using a very specific mental state. So
Yeah.
we're not just talking about wishful thinking. There's a science to this, to working with the subconscious, using the right techniques to get results.
Exactly. And it's not just about reaching goals in the outside world. It's about inner peace, happiness, well-being.
And that leads us to the thank you technique. It's all about being grateful.
And it's more than just feeling grateful. It's aligning yourself with the creative forces of the universe. The book tells this amazing story about a man. He used this technique to get through financial troubles. And he ended up with a great job. It's like gratitude just shifts your subconscious mindset
Yeah.
and attracts abundance.
Yeah, like gratitude is a magnet.
Exactly.
And I think something important, the subconscious mind, it's programmed for survival, for health, for well-being. So why do we have so much illness, so much negativity, if our subconscious is always working for our good?
That's a great question. And it brings us to another key aspect. The subconscious is susceptible to negative thoughts, to fears and limiting beliefs.
So we're kind of sabotaging ourselves.
In a way, yes. These negative thoughts, they get in the way. They block the subconscious mind from its natural tendency towards life and healing.
Oh, so it's like sending mixed messages to our subconscious. It's
Yeah.
trying to keep us healthy and safe,
Yeah.
but we are bombarding it with fear and anxiety.
It's like having one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. You're creating resistance.
So how do we get rid of these mental blocks to let our subconscious do its job?
That's a great way to put it. It's about identifying and releasing the negative thought patterns. The book shares this case of a psychologist. He healed an infected lung just by repeating affirmations of health and harmony while he slept.
Wow, that's powerful. He just removed the mental obstacles.
And this brings us to another important idea, the connection between the subconscious mind and sleep.
Oh, this is where it gets even more interesting.
Mhm.
I've always been fascinated by sleep and dreams. What does the book say about that connection?
It has a whole chapter on the wonders of sleep. It's suggesting that it's more than just physical rest. It's when our subconscious is most active, processing emotions, memories, connecting with deeper wisdom.
You know, it makes sense. I've woken up from a dream with a solution to a problem.
Exactly, the book is full of stories like that. People getting guidance, inspiration, solutions while they're asleep.
So sleep is not downtime. It's a chance for our subconscious to work.
You could say it's like a nightly download of inspiration.
So we can program our subconscious before bed.
Exactly, choosing what to focus on and trusting your subconscious. But the book also warns about sleep deprivation.
So skimping on sleep, we're missing out on those downloads.
It's more than that. Chronic sleep deprivation, it makes us more vulnerable to negative thoughts.
All right, I need to prioritize sleep. But it's not always easy to fall asleep peacefully, especially with stress and worries.
Absolutely, and the book talks about that. Life is full of challenges that affect our sleep. One of the biggest ones is relationship problems.
So that's a good transition into the next part of our deep dive, the subconscious mind and relationships.
It's a fascinating topic. The book has a whole chapter on how the subconscious shapes our relationships.
I can't wait to dive into that.
Let's do it.
So we're diving into relationships, a
Mhm.
topic that I think we can all relate to. What insights does the power of your subconscious mind have about how our subconscious shapes our relationships with other people?
Well, the book starts with this idea of the subconscious mind being like a magnet, something we talked about earlier. It suggests that we draw to us the people and experiences that match our deepest beliefs, including our romantic partners.
That makes sense. So if we have negative beliefs about relationships, like fear of abandonment, or thinking we're not worthy of love, we're more likely to attract partners who prove those beliefs true.
Exactly. It even gives specific affirmations to help attract an ideal partner. Like you can program your subconscious to find the qualities you want.
So instead of focusing on what we don't want, we shift to what we do want. Kindness, respect, shared values. We can magnetize those qualities to us.
That's the idea. And it's not just romantic relationships. Our subconscious mind, it shapes all our interactions.
Yeah.
Family, friends, even strangers we meet.
Right, because our thoughts about ourselves and others, they affect how we act, how we see the world. If we're full of anger or resentment, that's going to come out in how we interact with people.
Absolutely. And the book even tackles tough subjects, like divorce. It suggests that a relationship breaking down often starts in the mind way before we see it happen in real life.
So even if we're not consciously aware of it, if we have resentment, anger, a lack of forgiveness towards our partner, those negative feelings are creating a problem on a subconscious level.
Exactly. And the book stresses the importance of dealing with those issues, even suggesting things like couples praying together or practicing forgiveness to heal those wounds and build a stronger base for the relationship.
Like doing therapy, but on a subconscious level. It shows how important it is to have a healthy inner world. If we want to have healthy relationships, it's not just about finding the right person, but being the right person ourselves.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And this leads us to something else the book talks about, the connection between the subconscious mind and happiness.
Definitely a topic a lot of us are interested in. But it seems like happiness can be hard to find. Like we're always chasing it, but never quite reaching it. What does the book say about finding true happiness?
It says, straight up, that true happiness comes from realizing we have the power to overcome anything. It's not about our circumstances controlling our happiness. It's knowing deep down that we can handle anything.
That feeling of inner strength, knowing we can get through tough times, being able to choose how we react to any situation.
Exactly. And the book stresses this. Happiness is a choice. It's a state of mind.
So how do we choose happiness? Is there a step-by-step guide?
The book gives advice. It suggests focusing on whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. That's a passage from the Bible.
So choosing to focus on the good, the positive, instead of dwelling on the negative, on fear, training our minds to see the good even when things are difficult.
Exactly. And the book warns us, don't fall into the trap of thinking happiness comes from buying things. It's not about having more stuff. It's about feeling peaceful and content inside.
Like the saying, money can't buy happiness.
Right. The book doesn't say that money doesn't matter. But true happiness, it comes from within. It points out that many rich people are unhappy, while people with less money can be full of joy.
So it's that inner state, not what we own, but we live in a world that tells us we need more things to be happy.
That's why we need to be aware of those messages and choose what we let affect our inner state. The book says true happiness comes from aligning our thoughts and actions with what's right, with our deepest values.
It's about our inner compass guiding our actions.
Yeah.
Living with purpose.
Exactly. The book also talks about how important good relationships are for a happy life. It says the quality of our relationships reflects our inner world.
So we need to cultivate those positive qualities within ourselves first. Like we attract what we are, not just what we want.
Right. The book even says that having negative thoughts about others, it's like poisoning yourself. It hurts you more than it hurts them.
Wow, so holding on to grudges, resentment, it's actually bad for us.
Exactly. And it takes the golden rule, do unto others.
Yeah.
And it gives it a deeper meaning. Think about others how you want them to think about you. Feel about them how you want them to feel about you. Act towards them how you want them to act towards you.
That's powerful. It's not just about being a good person. They're realizing our thoughts and feelings about others. They actually shape our own reality. If we want kindness and respect from others, we need to be kind and respectful ourselves.
It's a reminder that our inner world shapes our outer world. And speaking of shaping our experiences, the book talks about the importance of forgiveness.
Forgiveness is a big concept, but it can be hard to actually do, especially when we've been hurt. What's the book's perspective on forgiveness?
Well, it says that life itself is always forgiving us.
That's interesting. What do you mean?
Well, think about how our bodies heal from injuries or fight off sickness. It's a natural process. Like life is always trying to restore balance and harmony.
So forgiveness isn't about saying what someone did was okay. It's about letting go of the negativity we're holding on to.
Right. The book says holding on to anger and resentment, it's like blocking the flow of positive energy within ourselves.
It makes me think of times I held on to a grudge. I felt so heavy and constricted. But when I let go, it was like a weight lifted.
The book even gives a technique for forgiveness. Visualize the person you need to forgive and send them thoughts of love and well-being.
So changing our energy from blame to compassion.
Forgiveness, the book says, it's love in action. It's a choice, an act of love. And it's not always easy, but the rewards are huge.
It's freeing ourselves from the past and opening up to healing and change.
And that leads us to another part of the book, the techniques for removing those mental blocks that keep us from being happy and successful.
So much of what we've talked about has really shown how much of our lives is shaped by things we're not even aware of. And I think one of the biggest things we all face is fear. It can really hold us back in every area of life.
Yeah, it's amazing how paralyzing fear can be. Keeps us from our dreams, from speaking up, from taking chances.
What does the power of your subconscious mind say about dealing with that fear?
Well, it reminds us that fear, it's a normal human emotion, but we don't have to let it control us. We get to choose how we respond to it, and we can even use it to help us grow.
So it's not about getting rid of fear completely, but understanding it and using it in a positive way.
Right. The book offers a few different techniques for overcoming fear, and one of the most helpful ones is that law of substitution we talked about.
Oh yeah, where the subconscious can only focus on one thought at a time. So if we're full of fear, we replace it with a more powerful thought.
Exactly. It's like changing the channel on the radio. You can only listen to one station at a time. So if we're tuned into fear, we switch over to courage, faith, any positive quality.
It's like we're working out our mental and emotional muscles. Instead of letting fear control us, we take charge.
And the book is clear, this takes practice. Just like getting physically stronger takes work, so does building mental and emotional strength.
We're not going to be perfect at it every time. We're human. Fear is part of life. But we can learn to react to it in a way that empowers us.
And the book has some great stories about how this works. Remember Mr. Block, the salesman who thought he was jinxed? He changed his mindset from fear of rejection to focusing on what he offered.
Yeah, his story shows how powerful the law of substitution can be. He didn't just think positive, he acted on those new beliefs.
Exactly. And his reality changed because of it. It shows we're not just helpless, we have a hand in creating our lives.
I think that's what makes this book so interesting. It shows how we can use our subconscious mind to get what we want, whether it's overcoming fear, achieving financial success, or finding true happiness.
It's like this book, it gives us the keys to unlock our potential.
This has been such an amazing deep dive. I feel like I have so many new tools to work with now.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you. And remember, we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more in the book. Techniques for changing habits, finding peace. The more we explore and use these techniques, the more we can achieve.
To everyone listening, I hope this has inspired you to learn about the power of your own subconscious mind. Start small, maybe try practicing gratitude, using affirmations, or taking one step towards your dreams.
You have the power to create the life you want. It begins with the choices you make, the thoughts you choose to focus on,
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning.
and keep diving deep.